If you want to Emily, welcome back on my channel. Today's video is going to be my October wrap-up. So I'm going to be letting you know my thoughts about the 10 books that I've read this month. So first off, let's start with a little bit of stats. I asked you in a past video if you wanted me to include some stats, so I'm going to do so. If you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. If there's other stats you want me to put in there or change, just again, let me know. So like I mentioned, I read 10 books in the month of October. The average page count for a book was 437 pages. So for a total of 4,370 pages, or at least from books that I finished. The books that I've read, 1 was YA, 9 were adults, 4 were written by women, 6 by men, although twice it was the same author, same male author, so it's kind of like 4-4. And most of them were in the category of thriller, mystery, horror. I just categorize those books together because, I don't know, to me they're the same genre. 1 was fantasy, although it was paranormal, so kind of still stick to the Halloween theme. And then 1 was contemporary literary fiction, simply because my library had it available. And it was now or never because there's so many people waiting for it now already. So yeah, I stuck pretty well to my Halloween theme for sure. 2 were audiobooks and then the rest were paper. I had 1 one-star books. Most of them were 3.5 to like 4.5, like 8 of them, and then 1 of them was 5 stars. So basically I had a really good reading month. Although I feel like the last week I barely read anything. I don't know if I overdid it or something during the month, but I think it's mostly because I'm still waiting for the 3rd book in a series that I finished 2 of the books, so I'm like kind of annoyed. Plus I've realized that Stephen King, I've read a lot of him lately and it's hard for me to read his books fast. Not that it's a competition, I'm trying to read my books super fast, but for some reason after a couple ones I'm just like feeling exhausted. So let's go through the 10 books I've read this month. The first one I've mentioned early in the month during my fall recommendation, and it is The Running Man by Stephen King. Was written under Richard Bachman, and this was a really fun book for him. It was actually quite fast-paced. And it's in a dystopian world where people are kind of really poor, at least some people, and then people need to be entertained in front of TV. And then there's the poor people basically become the people into those TV shows where they basically most likely die, but they're being paid for it. And since they're poor, they do that. And then the main character you're following, his daughter is sick, so he goes through the auditions to try and participate in one of the show, and he's stuck into The Running Man, which is basically a show where people are after you and trying to kill you, and every hour you don't die, you get X amount of money, and then if you survive for 30 days, which has never happened, you're safe and you get like $1 billion or something. So basically you're following him through that journey and it's very intense. And I was saying earlier how I thought this would make a great movie, and apparently it was made into a movie in the like 70s, 80s. So I probably should watch this, but it was nice. I definitely recommend it. I believe I gave it like 4.5 stars. It was a really great read. Would totally recommend. Next, let's go into the 5-star book and the next book in that series, because I read the first 2 books into the Wayward Pines trilogy by Blake Crouch. And Blake Crouch wrote Dark Matter that I read last year and absolutely loved. And that book was like kind of a mix of sci-fi thriller, basically kind of the same thing with this series. I highly recommend you check it out if you are into the same type of books as me. In the first book, basically you're following a secret agent that is sent into Wayward Pines, which is a small town where 2 of his colleagues disappeared, and he's just basically there to investigate and figure out what's happening. But basically that town is really, really weird. Everyone is acting strange and he still doesn't know what's going on. And there is it's a thriller, so obviously there's a twist towards the end, which is gonna make you either love or hate the book. So again, if you have similar taste than me, you're probably gonna love this. If you don't, you're probably gonna hate this. But I really enjoyed it. So much so that I ran out and bought the next book in a series, which is Wayward. And I also like that one. I can't say anything about this except that it's still in that creepy town, because anything else would be a spoiler since it's the 2nd book, but really enjoyed that one. I gave the first one 5 stars. I just really liked it. And this one I gave 4.5 stars. It was still a strong book for sure. And I'm waiting for my 3rd book. I ordered that book on the 2nd of October and it's still not here. Like, Book Depository, what are you doing with my book? Like, I am waiting for it and I'm desperate to get it. I need to know how it ends. And yeah, I am currently watching a TV show. And if you're gonna watch a TV show, just be aware if you've read the books at first that you're gonna be screaming at your screen the whole freaking time saying, it's not how it happens in the book. Which I've been doing and annoying people, but really, really like it. So if you were looking for a fun thriller sci-fi book, I recommend Pines. It's basically why I'm in a slump-ish right now, because I want the third book desperately. I believe this is the first book I finished this month, and it was I Let You Go by Claire McIntosh. I read I See You by her last month, very recently, and it was okay read. It wasn't like mind-blowing or anything, so I had like okay expectations for this one, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised, but probably just because I was in the mood to read something a little bit more slow-paced. And slow-paced and thriller usually don't go hand in hand, but I enjoyed it. Basically, the books begin with a woman seeing her child being hit by a car, and then you're just following the story of what happens, basically, afterwards. A woman being in like a small town hiding, trying to forget about that life. And that's the part that is kind of slow-paced, like little village and everything, but I enjoyed it. Like close to water, living in a cottage, I feel that's something I would enjoy, so I liked it. I don't want to say anything else because again, thrillers, the more you know, the less enjoyable they can be, so I would recommend that one over I See You. So if you were looking for a new one for the fall, it's still fall, I would recommend checking that out if that's something that you seem interested in. I believe I gave it 4 stars. The next one is pretty controversial. The ending twist is again either something you're gonna enjoy or hate, so be warned. Personally, I was into it because I'm into that, so I can't say anything else. And it is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinsborough. And this was a strange book, like a lot more strange than expected. She's following a single mom who meets a guy one night in a bar, and then she realizes that he's her new boss and he's married, and she's just struggling between being attracted to him and then becoming friends with his wife, and things are just messed up. I'm just gonna end there because this is something, because again, thriller, but I liked the twist at the end. I understand why people hated it, because part of me was like, what the hell? Like, it's impossible to see it coming until the very last end because it's so out there, but I'm okay with it. So, would check out if you like the same books as me, maybe. Next, I read Every Fear by Peter Swanson. I read last year one of his books, loved it so much that I decided to continue reading more of his books, and I picked that one up for fall. And this was also an interesting read, also a thriller, so there's only so much I can say, but you're basically following a young woman who suffers from PTSD, and you don't know exactly what's going on, what happened in her life, and she suffers from anxiety, and she decides to switch apartment with her cousin, who lives in the US, she lives in the UK, so they switch apartment for 6 months, and the day she arrives in her new apartment, she realizes that there's actually been a murder, like, next door. So things are very creepy, she doesn't know what's going on, and that's kind of all I can say, but I have to admit, if you're someone that has suffered from anxiety or knows someone, you're gonna feel her anxiety a lot. Like, it definitely made me feel on edge, and I did like it. I'm not sure if I like it more than A Kind Worth Killing that I read from him last year. I feel like that one was also very interesting, but he's really into having like multiple twists into a book, which is nice when you're reading a thriller. So would recommend. I believe I gave it 4 stars, so very good. The next one is my 1 star. I feel like I'm gonna have to do a full video complaining about YA books, like really popular YA books. I have like a love-hate relationship with them on BookTube. I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, it actually was good. And very often I'm like, why is everyone liking this? There's no way that you reread that as an adult and fell in love with it again. Like, there's no way. Anyway, I feel like an ass saying that, but really, it was horrendous. And it is The Unbecoming of Mary Dyer by Michelle Otkin. And this is like all the horrible tropes you can think of when you think about a YA love story, paranormal. I think I'm super angry about it, mostly because there was so much potential. The first chapter I read in the try chapter book tag, where I was reading a lot of like popular YA books, and I was actually intrigued after reading the first chapter. I reread it before starting it, obviously, and I enjoyed it again. It was interesting. She was playing with her friends on a Ouija board, and the board basically tells her best friend that she will be the one responsible for her death. And you're intrigued, what's going on? And some bits in the book were interesting because of that, so I saw the potential, but then it was completely ruined by the love story. So bad. Like, literally, the boy with the British accent obviously is rich, obviously is so hot, everyone wants him, but he only wants her, and like, he literally told her that she's not like other girls. Like, he literally said it out loud. Couldn't deal with it. So I did leave a really pity review on Goodreads if you are in the mood to read that, so I'll link my Goodreads so you can check it out. But yeah, let me know if you want me to do a full video on these type of books, because I have so much to say, but then there's only so much random rambling, ranting I can do in this video. It's a wrap up, so I give it 1 star. That's what it deserves. I'm really mad about it, and yeah. I was very excited to read the newest Stephen King book that he wrote with his son, Owen King, Sleeping Beauties. The premise of this was super interesting, although it is quite hard to summarize because you're following way too many characters, to the point that there's literally a list in the beginning of the book. And I have a great memory, and sometimes I would get confused. So literally, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 pages that tells you about the characters. But basically, there is a new disease that only affects women that puts them to sleep, obviously Sleeping Beauties, and you're following multiple characters as the women are trying to stay awake because they don't know if they're going to die when they're put into that sleep. During that sleep, they kind of form a cocoon, and if someone breaks the cocoon, the woman kind of goes crazy and kills them and then goes back to sleep. So very interesting premise. I was intrigued. I loved it. Plus you're following people in a small town, including police chief. Her husband is also the psychiatrist, I believe, in the women prison that is also in that village. So, I mean, I enjoyed quite a bit in there. It was very long, like very long. And although I did appreciate quite a bit of the feminist subject that was in there, obviously, think about it, like all the women are put to sleep, you kind of have to start talking about feminism or sexism in general in there. And I did appreciate a lot of the comments, but sometimes I feel like sometimes it kind of went a little too far, to the point where I left my review on Goodreads saying that it kind of went on the verge of like hat tipping, my lady, neckbeard type of thing. And I don't know if it's just me, so if you have read this, especially as a woman, let me know how you felt about it, because it did feel like sometimes it kind of was starting to explain these things to me, and I was just like, I appreciate what you're doing, but it's a little bit much. Although, I also want to say that I give it 3.5 stars, by the way, so that's a really good rating for me. Anything that is over 3 stars is good. I discovered one of my newest, most hated characters of all time, which my list is growing, and I'm going to be able to do a video on it soon, and oh, Don Peters, I hate you so much. Like, I'm not a violent person, but he would be my exception. Like, he really would. That book, like, I was so mad at him so many times. I literally wanted to throw this book and burn it. So that's how mad I was at him. If you have read this, once again, you're gonna know. I really hated him. So yeah, at least that's a good part about this book. I liked it. I wouldn't necessarily reread it, and I don't think it's his best, but it was an interesting concept nonetheless. The last 2 are audiobooks, although one of them I do have the physical copy of, and it is The Fireman by Joe Hill. And this was actually really good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The audiobook was also good. I know that sometimes audiobooks I'm complaining. This one was good. The easiest way to describe this like really big book is that once again there's like almost post-apocalyptic events where there's a disease that affects people and basically turns them into ticking bomb. That's the best way of describing it, because once you're affected you start like burning up inside, and if you can't control your emotions and everything, you just burst in flame and then burn the whole city. So you can imagine the world is going to crap, and you're following a group of people that are affected as they're trying to just hide and survive. And it was really interesting. I enjoyed it. I feel like I really like anything post-apocalyptic or like disease affecting people, and this was a really nice twist to it. I don't want to say too much about it because I feel like it is better, again, if you don't know too much. I feel like it's gonna be, the whole wrap-up is this, but I mean, that's how it is. So I did end up giving it 4 stars, enjoyed it, would recommend. It had pretty short chapters and like little parts in those chapters, so I feel like those books tend to go faster. I enjoyed it, so would totally recommend if you're into that type of premise. And then the last book that was the contemporary of the weird sci-fi thriller of the month. It was Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, and I did listen to it as an audiobook. The audiobook was actually really good, enjoyed it. And contemporary is not my usual genre. I feel like sometimes I really enjoyed it, but sometimes I'm kind of disappointed. This one was full of feels, let's just say it like that. I feel like that's the case very often with any of those books, but I don't want to say like too much because the less you know, like, I mean, in contemporaries you can't say too much either because not that much happens, and whatever happens is like the twist-ish that are in there. But basically you're following multiple people, some of them are Asian American, some of them are just white Caucasian American, and there's multiple stories that you're following. One of them is a woman who is an artist and she has a kid, and they constantly move all over the US, and then they finally move to this little town where they are supposed to stay forever, and she becomes making friend, and then there's an event that starts happening where an Asian baby is found, and then a white family decides to adopt it, and then there's like drama once the mom tries to get her baby back. And you just start to learn more about the characters as the book goes on, and I'm gonna leave it at that. It was a really nice read. The audiobook was actually really good too. And now I really want to read her other book that I have on my shelf, but I have not picked it up yet, and everything I never told you. So I need to read this one now because I did really enjoy this one. I believe I gave it 4.5 stars, a good read. So that's it, guys. Those are all the books that I have read in October. I'm currently kind of slumpy-ish. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm hoping that November is gonna be also good. I did already film my TBR, so you're gonna see this. Although I'm currently reading Pet Sematary and I didn't include it in that TBR. I filmed it like 2 days ago and I thought I would be able to finish it, but I don't think it's gonna happen. So that's also in my November TBR. So that's it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what books you've read this month that you enjoyed, that you would recommend to other people. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. It helps other people find it. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss any future videos. I will be linking on the screen of the videos that I've done. I highly recommend you check those out, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.